We are really happy to welcome you to Sesameed's webinar. And this month, we'll be focusing on utilizing summer activities in order to build a stronger candidate profile when it comes to applying to university at a later stage. So, this is ideally for students who are moving into their senior year, junior year, or sophomore year of high school, just to enable you to understand how you could best utilize your time and really maximize the opportunities to excel both inside and outside of the classroom, and how you can enrich your overall student profile. So I'll start off with a quick introduction. My name is Dexter Padayachee, and I'm the head of university guidance. I've been working with Sesameed now for over a year, and prior to that, my career has spanned over the past decade within the education space. Whether it was working at a university in the US in student support, to teaching at the University of Cape Town, and most recently serving as a university guidance counselor at top schools, particularly in on the African continent. It's really been my pleasure to work with students to really navigate both the application process, but also their own development. And part of this development definitely entailed working with students on deciding on which pathway would be best for them to take over the summer. So this webinar will cover why summers matter for US college applications, how students can stand out through what they're doing over the summer periods, how to also align their activities with interests, goals, passions, values. We'll also focus on some real examples of successful applicants. And then, most importantly, how are you able to take the experiences that you have over the summer, and let's even say by extension, the entire academic year or the past 2 to 3 years, and really utilize those experiences in order to tell a specific story about who you are as a student and as a person. So hopefully by the end of this particular webinar, you'll have some ideas on how to maximize your summers, how to really do things that matter, that you are passionate about, and most importantly, how do you then tie those particular experiences into who you are as a person. So, just to get us started, I think that we'll focus on understanding why summers are important. And this is because many universities, particularly in the US, will take on a holistic review admission process, which means that they are interested in who you are beyond your grades. Your academic transcript or report signals and shows who you are academically. What are your core intellectual strengths? What are you interested in? How have you pushed yourself within the classroom constraints? However, the application itself is interested in who you are more than simply just your grades. They want to understand, what do you value? Who are you? What personality are you going to bring into the classroom and into the school community? And so, therefore, we can think about the summer as a period where you have the period to really explore, to grow, and to lead. That freedom where your time might not be tied to a specific class or a specific timetable, you have the freedom to really just think about the ways in which you would like to grow personally. And what does that development actually mean for you as a student? And within the choices that you make in the summer, you can think about, how does it show your initiative as a student? And I oftentimes like to think of initiative as something that is intricately linked with the idea of leadership. Many students who take initiative end up being some of the best leaders I've seen. And so this is a great moment for you to really take control of your journey, select something that matters to you, and then therefore go for it and really put your all into it. It also enables you the opportunity to really highlight your curiosity. For many students in different academic programs, you may find that the school offering is quite limited. Perhaps you're interested in aeronautical space engineering, but there's no course that explicitly links to it. You've taken all the physics courses you can take. This is an opportunity for you to take a deeper dive into what matters to you. Perhaps it's also thinking about something that's outside of your academic focus. If you are a STEM student, but you have a passion for debate and history, this could be a great opportunity to dive a little bit deeper if your offering at high school has not enabled you to take courses within the humanities. And in addition to that, it's a great opportunity to highlight your character. And what we mean by this is thinking through how you as a student are able to find opportunities to give back to the community, to really focus on what is meaningful to you, focus on your family. That is a great show of character. Oftentimes, students say, but I'm not going to a university-based summer program. It's not great. However, if you can find something meaningful to do within your home context, that is a perfect opportunity to highlight your character. And strong summer experiences make personal statements personal. And what I mean by this is if you're able to take a summer experience and contextualize it within your entire life, it shows that you're able to approach opportunities, take on different challenges that matter to you, that is a part of your overall personal journey of growth and development. So typically, what colleges are looking for when they are reviewing your profile overall, it's intellectual curiosity. How are you pushing yourself outside of the classroom? Do you learn about a concept and then take it a step further? I remember working with a student who is really interested in psychology, and they are currently exploring how psychology can reach the masses. And one way that they thought about this is social media. And so over the summer, the student will be focusing on developing their project by utilizing their interest in psychology and then making it easy enough to understand so that teenagers and youth can actually engage with some of the topics that they are learning within a very academic setting. So it's making things knowledgeable and sharing that with others. That's highlighting your intellectual curiosity. How do you go above and beyond? Some students even look at this through doing individual research. Sometimes that could also look like learning a particular course online, which then highlights initiative and leadership. How are you able to look at what's around you and then decide, utilizing the resources at my disposal, I am able to build and grow on a personal level. And beyond that, I'm going to connect with others and then we can develop together. And that sort of initiative and leadership is what universities really look for, simply because university is a microcosm of the world. I oftentimes call it intentional communities, where you have people who are specifically selected or self-select to be a part of this particular community, and you are learning and growing alongside each other. And the reason why this is important to colleges and universities is because they want to ensure that the students that they are selecting to be a part of this particular community is going to enable overall growth. It's also a great opportunity to show consistency and depth. Many students have multiple different activities that they're doing or multiple different interests. Because the summertime is a longer period where you don't have the demands of schoolwork necessarily, it's an opportunity for you to look at that horizontal plane of having many things and then deciding which ones do I want to go deep into. And that deep dive is actually telling the university something about what you are interested in. And that is a mark of authenticity. One question, I'll just frame it here that you'll probably get at a later stage in this presentation, is that the authenticity really comes when it's a matter of selecting what you want to do versus what your parents have told you to do, what your counselor has told you to do, what you think the university is looking for. That level of authenticity can be read within the activities that you choose. And then finally, similar to initiative and leadership, we have impact and community engagement. And this, I would say, is something that we are seeing as counselors matters more and more for universities. Are you, as a student, able to make an impact? And I want to just dispel any sort of preconceived ideas that you might have around the word impact. You don't need to support 100 different people in order to make an impact. Sometimes impact comes through the smallest gestures. And if you're able to change one person's life or bring information and advice and knowledge to a community through any medium, that is making an impact because that impact relates to how you've ideally articulated what your purpose is. And so impact should not be the scary thing that you see, but rather how can you utilize the summer to make a difference? And that difference can be something big, it can be something small, as long as it is meaningful to you. And so I'm hoping that you're able to see the threads that exist between these five different things that colleges typically look for when it comes to reviewing applications from students. And I just want to alert or take your attention to the clip posted note that says it's not about doing the most, it's about doing what matters to you and doing it well. And so, encapsulated in this is the idea of excellence, not excellence on someone else's measurement, but rather excellence on your own measurement, doing your best in everything that you engage in. And so now we'll just have a look at the different types of summer activities. And I've just decided to focus on four different types. Of course, if you speak with any other counselor or maybe even a teacher, they may tell you that there's a million different types of summer activities. But in order to simplify it so that we can approach it and really think about what the pros and cons are of these different types of programs, you as a student or as a parent are able to make the right decision moving forward. So we find academic enrichment programs. This could look at like university-based programs, perhaps even some high school-based programs. It could be a competition or an Olympiad. It could be an online course that you're taking or a course at your local university. It could also look like real-world experiences where you have the opportunity to take on an internship. I think that for many students, internships are becoming more and more important. The future of work is looking very unpredictable, and while you may have various reports from the World Economic Forum or McKinsey and various different organizations and bodies, I think that as a student, an internship is going to give you a real look into what your future profession might look like, but more importantly, how it's changing. I think that in so many different fields, we are seeing integration of automation, AI, various technologies that are infiltrating, whether it is the arts or engineering. And so, doing an internship at this point is going to give you insight into what skills you might need to develop in order to be successful in the future. Similarly, this applies to job shadowing. And if you do get the opportunity to do that, I think that it makes for such a compelling story to share with universities when you're saying, I want to become a psychologist because through job shadowing a psychologist, I was able to see the impact that they make in the lives of youth, which is something that resonates with me. And so, as you can tell, we're already formulating these narratives from the first decision we make when it comes to the type of summer activity that we'd like to engage in. Other opportunities could be community engagement, whether it is volunteering or service projects, and then finally, personal projects. Are you writing? Are you doing research independently? Are you showing the university or college that you're going to apply to that you are an autodidact, that you're able to take your learning experience and own it? And I think that for so many people, particularly over the past, I'd say 5 years, with the onset of the COVID-19 pandemic, for example, students really needed to take charge and be control of their own learning journeys. And so, therefore, independent research could be a fantastic way to highlight this. Other avenues is perhaps doing creative work. If you are an artist at heart, but you also love STEM and you've not taken any artistic programs or courses in your high school, this could be an opportunity to work on a creative project. And then finally, a business. Think about entrepreneurship. How were you able to create or ideate a particular business idea that really links what you're passionate about when it comes to also perhaps a community engagement opportunity? So, how are you thinking about social investments and social entrepreneurship in order to create change? And so, as you can tell, these are four vastly different types of summer activities that you can engage in as a student. And figuring out what's important or what combination of these work best for you would be a lot easier if you have an adult, whether it's a teacher, a counselor, a parent, to help guide you through the process to really find out what is important to you and why you're making certain decisions. So now we'll be moving into going into a little bit more detail when it comes to thinking through academic enrichment. So I want to just highlight certain things that it could show in your application. It could potentially show that you have a passion for learning. If you are taking college level classes or courses that are more rigorous than what is offered at your high school, it's showing that you are actually ready to take on college level work. And this, I believe, is becoming more and more important as universities are now questioning, did the student get straight A's because they've relied on ChatGPT throughout their high school career? A summer program at a reputable university could really show that you are actually ready to take on college level coursework. In addition to that, it could also show subject specialization. And this again comes in the form where perhaps you are interested in accounting or actuarial science, but that's not necessarily offered at the high school level. So, what course could you then take to really show that you are an expert in the subject that you hope to pursue at a university level? And these could take form in various ways. You could look at university-based programs, as I've mentioned before, perhaps thinking about joining an Olympiad group or an online course. Perhaps there is a course that is based at a high school that just really enables you to explore your subject interests in a more meaningful way. It is a great opportunity, if you can do it, to go for it. Learning doesn't stop when the academic year stops. I always tell my students that even through college and university, and even as an adult, learning never stops. And so, whenever you have a moment to pause and breathe, think about how you could breathe better. And what I mean by that is, I know that you've been really stressed over the past academic year taking on courses, and yet you're asked to take additional courses. That sounds a little bit mean because as a student, you want time to relax. However, what I found is that if I'm learning something that I'm truly passionate about, it doesn't feel like work. And so, therefore, I think it's even more important that as you approach summer programs, if they are academic, really choose courses that matter to you and that you're going to enjoy. It shouldn't feel like a burden. It should be something that gets you excited. And this is a tip that I would like to share with you. When you are looking at selective programs, you need to make that choice very early. I can't tell you how many students I've worked with in the past who have considered programs but wait until the last minute or the deadline to apply. And many of those programs are already filled. It's not that the student was not good enough or wasn't able to take that particular program, but they just applied too late. And this is where a good counselor comes in handy as well. If you have someone to keep you accountable and to guide you through the process, share options with you, and discuss their pros and cons, this can really simplify the entire process of applying to university-based summer programs and other types of programs. So do keep that in mind and have conversations with your counselors as early as possible. The next sort of type of summer activity that I'd like to dive into is real world experience. Oftentimes, and I know that some high schools do it really well and some high schools don't do it at all, but the idea of project-based learning, and when project-based learning is done well, it really enables students to take what they learn in the classroom and apply it to real-world contexts and challenges. Similarly, if we look at internships, job shadowing, and perhaps even research at universities or other think tanks, it gives you an opportunity to really take theory and turn it into practice. And universities do want to see this because we are no longer talking about simple theory when it comes to the future of higher education. We're actually talking about the more practical aspects of it. More and more families are asking, what is the value of higher education? And I think that as a student, to do your due diligence is to really understand what is the field you want to go into. It can highlight your maturity in understanding the career pathway that you've selected. In addition to that, it requires a certain level of responsibility. When you do an internship, you may be treated as a quote unquote intern, but you're also seen as an adult. You are a colleague within a workspace. You're not solely going to be looked at as the student. So it's really important to note that through this particular journey, you'll be gaining responsibility. And being able to hold yourself accountable within those spaces will be really important. It also enables you the opportunity or affords you the opportunity to do some career exploration. So many of us, myself included, thought that I would love to become a doctor or an accountant or an engineer one day. And I didn't fully understand it until I was able to do some internship when I was in university. So, not even in high school, but when I was already in university, I had the opportunity to do an internship and I was a financial analyst. And I realized that I did not like finance. And my whole life, I was like, I love math. I should just become someone in the financial world. But this really gave me the opportunity to realize that being a financial analyst or anything in finance was not for me. What it did give me at the same time was real world skills. I was able to understand how spreadsheets work. It was my first introduction to Excel, even though I've used it in classrooms in computer science. Doing it in the real world is very different than doing it in a classroom. So I think that this is really the pull when it comes to thinking about real world experiences, particularly in internships and job shadowing. The tip here is that real learning matters more than famous names. And what I mean by this is you could do a certificate at a prestigious university. However, perhaps the best learning environment for you would actually be an internship, where you're able to take what you learn, transfer it back to the high school, transfer it to your friends, and also apply it to your everyday life after that opportunity. I think that is what I refer to when I say real learning. The third type of activity for your summer is community engagement. You could teach. So many of the students that I work with are excellent in the subjects that they are really passionate about. And having the ability to take your expertise and share it with others, I believe is very powerful. Specifically, for many of us who come from communities that might have quite a large disparity between those who have privilege and those who don't, being able to take your resources, your knowledge, your expertise, and share it with communities is really important. Also, organizing events, whether it is a charity drive, whether it is a campaign for something that you're passionate about, or volunteering, could leave a lasting impression not only for your university applications, but for you as well as a student. Perhaps you realize what the difference is in the world you'd really like to make. It also teaches us compassion, leadership, cultural awareness, and highlights this idea of contributing to communities as we are building it. No matter your age, you are definitely an integral part of the fabric of society. And I think that this is the main takeaway here. Don't think about community engagement as quote unquote charity, but rather think about it through the lens of you are engaging with communities. And through doing that, you are not only benefiting others, but you're benefiting yourself. As you change perspectives, your perspectives get changed and challenged too. And so I'm a huge fan of engaging with community in very intentional ways. Another pro, if I can just share about having a counselor who's intentional about the work that they do, is that they won't recommend that you just spend time volunteering at some place for the sake of doing it as a checkbox. But rather, they'll push you to think about how this may relate to what you are genuinely interested in. And the tip here is that small scale impact can be deeply meaningful. And I just want you to take a second to reflect and let this particular tip sit with you. Small scale impact can be deeply meaningful. Again, we're not asking you to change the world. Maybe one day you will. But starting small is extremely important because any contribution that you make to society, and if it impacts one person, that is a fantastic contribution. And then finally, we could also think about personal projects. When it comes to writing, I've worked with students on a plethora of personal projects, and I know that my colleagues have as well. From writing short stories and novels, to doing research, to creating blogs that enable them to take artistic endeavors and merge it with scientific inquiry. Writing is a space where you can really have the freedom to show innovation. In addition to that, some students may have a talent. And what better way these days than to show creativity than through YouTube? So many people use YouTube to showcase skills that they have. I've also seen various students who utilize YouTube as a way to build brands. And even as a student at university, for example, something that started in high school became a way that they were able to fund their own university journey through learning skills like marketing and video editing and Photoshop. I'm pretty sure Photoshop might be outdated at this stage, but there are so many different skills that you can gain, similar to YouTube as well. And you can become a content creator or perhaps a partner to content creators. And that could both give you a sustainable job that you have while you are a student, but perhaps it might also take you to understand some of the creative endeavors that you do have. For some of you who are tech savvy, perhaps you love programming, build an app. And it's not just building an app for the sake of building an app. I 2 years ago worked with a student who had built an app on a phone app that was able to detect and send early warning messages about floods and earthquakes and other natural disasters. And this was something that he was really passionate about because he wanted to become an environmental science major. He also had a deep passion for computer science and coding in particular. And so we talked about ways in which he could utilize both of those interests and passions and allow them to merge. And so this could be a conversation that you have with a counselor or a trusted adult to really think about how you're able to utilize technology. We live in a technological world, and then really just build something from that. And then finally, starting a business, taking initiative. Entrepreneurship is so important, and many people say you can't learn entrepreneurship. Others say you can learn entrepreneurship. I say test it. If you have the summer to think about an idea that you really find meaningful, start a business. This could be a really great phase, and specifically as a student, if there's no large capital investment, this is the time where you really explore. And if you fail, that's totally fine because as a young person, I think it's easier to a certain extent to fail forward. If the business doesn't work, you get up, you think about what went wrong, you learn from those experiences, and you make yourself better through that. And the important thing here is that the personal projects really reflect who you are, going back to this idea of authenticity. So even if it's a simple project, what matters is that it matters to you and you're able to highlight certain skills, ideas, thoughts, interests through this particular personal project. And so now we'll take a moment to think about two different students. So on the one hand, we have Sophie. Sophie is or was a student in Malaysia, and she was really interested in thinking about medicine, medical research. She knew that what she really wanted to do was become someone who made a difference through healthcare. And so over the summer, for her choices, she was thinking about different STEM specific courses that she could take at different universities. Something else that she thought about was maybe an internship at a hospital or a clinic. And what really emerged for her was that she had an understanding of medicine from what she has seen in the public through personal experiences as well. But it was really important for her to find a course that would enable her to understand healthcare and what it means to become a doctor more intentionally and with greater clarity. And so Sophie decided to take a health course, but she did this online because there weren't any university-based programs that would enable her to get the knowledge that she was seeking specifically. from that, I think what was really amazing is that Sophie not only took the online health course, but then took the information that she gained and volunteered in her community and held hygiene workshops in order to teach young girls about hygiene. And this really resonated with both her interest in female empowerment, helping girls, and her interest in the healthcare system. And so those hygiene workshops also played an integral part of her summer. She then utilized the experiences, both taking the online course as well as the hygiene workshops, and wrote about it in her Y major essay. And through the tangible, real life experiences that she had through the workshop and through taking the course, she was able to demonstrate that she is deeply interested in this particular pathway. Not because someone told her to become a doctor, but through her personal experiences, both academic as well as community engagement, she was able to utilize it and really leverage it to tell her story. And as you can see, Sophie was successful at Tufts University and UC Davis. So this is one way in which the summer programs can really help you stand out in applications because you're not just saying, I want to become X or I want to become Y. You're saying, I want to become X because I have these experiences and I've pushed myself. I've found the opportunities to learn more about this particular topic. And that is really invaluable. We also have Ethan. Ethan is a student in grade 10 from China and really, really interested in finance, loves mathematics. But Ethan also realized that one of his weak points was his ability to communicate effectively. And so Ethan said, I'm going to challenge myself. While I'm able to understand financial markets and I love economics and I love reading the Financial Times, sometimes when I'm trying to articulate my thoughts and opinions on it, it doesn't come out very clear. And so, how Ethan challenged himself is he said, for the summer, I'm going to start a finance blog and I'm going to utilize the feedback that I received from readers in order to improve my communication skills. So, this is saying there's a skill that I lack. I lack the ability to communicate clearly and effectively. I have a passion for finance. How can I utilize my passion for finance in order to improve my ability to communicate more effectively and with impact? And so this particular blog started when Ethan was in grade 10, and he continued it throughout his high school career up until his senior year and even into university, where his writing improved over time, his ability to think in complex and critical ways improved. And we had a simple conversation. Writing is thinking. And that changed his approach and his fear of writing because he said, I can think about finance. But if you are saying that writing is thinking, I'm going to perfect writing in order to think more clearly. And so this finance blog started off with short articles and grew over time. And this to me was such an amazing exposition of growth. And universities, because he shared the link to his blog, could go back to the first post and then look at the last post and see that growth journey of the student. And I think that there's no better way than to demonstrate growth than to show I was not perfect at the beginning, but I'm moving toward that. And there's improvement every step of the way. And so here again, you have this idea of creativity, starting a blog, and finance, a deep passion, something that you are doing as an independent study. You're taking ownership of your learning, sharing the articles that you're reading, and then synthesizing it. It's really highlighting to universities that this person is serious about what they are interested in, and they have a clear passion. And what better universities to get into than Boston University and NYU for someone interested in finance? So these are just two examples of how utilizing the summer can really benefit you both in the university application, but I think that more importantly, hopefully by me sharing these particular stories, you're able to see how the students themselves grew and they become more confident, more self-assured in both the direction that they're taking as well as improving skills and understanding overall. And so this is a little framework that I've been researching and learning more about over the past few years. And I think that this activity really helps students choose the right summer program for them. It's called the ICED framework. So, what are you interested in? And don't think about it from a sense of I'm speaking with my counselor, I'm speaking with my parents, and so I want to tell them what they want to hear. Really take a moment and just write down everything that you're interested in. It could be something small, it could be academic, it could be non-academic, but by putting everything out there that you're interested in, it's really going to enable you to understand what are you really curious about. The next step is challenge. Are you going to take a course just because it's nice to say you've done it and you're taking the same level mathematics course because it is at a prestigious university? I would say that's not the right approach to take. Think about how are you going to stretch yourself? Does the program provide you the appropriate challenge to enable your growth and to support you through that process? So it needs to have a certain level of challenge. Is it going to require effort? Are you going to be consistent in it? Is there a commitment that you're making? I've honestly also worked with students who've started fantastic projects and ideas for projects for the summer, but then the consistency wasn't there. And that highlights a lack of effort. But I would also say that it's really important for you as a student to think about how is the summer program going to make me a better student and person for the next year? And so you want to ensure that there's a level of consistency in this. And then finally, how is the summer program or activity going to enable you to provide a distinction? How is it going to set you apart from someone else? And I think that this is really important too. Don't do something because all your friends are doing it. Don't select a summer program because you've heard that it's really prestigious and that people who do this summer program gets into this type of university, etc., etc. I think that that's a little bit of a farce. It's a myth. And so it's really important to really think about how is this particular program going to enable your growth and how is that going to translate when you are applying to university and being able to say that this is who I am. I've selected this because I'm genuinely interested in it. It has challenged me. I've been consistent. And that's what sets me apart, you know? So really think about this iced model when you are exploring summer activities and programs. And as a parent, if you're on the call, use this to actually have conversations with your children. I think that it's a great thing for summer programs, but it can also be used in various ways throughout their academic journey. It doesn't need to solely be applied to summer programs. So something that I'd love for you to do as the webinar comes to a close is to reflect on this. And if you're going into a summer program this year, if you've done or completed a short program perhaps already, this should help you start narrating and really identifying what your summer story is. So what did you care about? What did you learn? How has this program enabled you to grow? And what impact did you make? I think that these particular questions can be returned to at various intervals. Perhaps it is at the end of an academic year, the start of a summer activity, in the middle of a summer activity, at the end because this reflective exercise really enables you to track your own growth. I think that oftentimes we go through life without taking a moment to think about how experiences shape us, how we have shifted perspectives, how we've grown different competencies, or perhaps how we've changed ideas within ourselves and within others. And so I do think it's important to really ask these questions consistently as you navigate the summer program, but also life in general. Common pitfalls to avoid, I think it's really important just to highlight these. Don't just choose something because it looks good and you think it looks good. Again, as I mentioned at the beginning, you are a student, you are a teenager. Don't overload yourself. Have some fun too. take time to spend with family. I was on a call with a student this week and I said, take some time to sleep. And the student responded saying, oh, but I really like feeling a little bit of pressure. Fantastic, but take time to sleep. You will thank yourself at a later stage if you just relax. So do take my word for it. If you don't have an interest in an elite program, don't just apply to it because of the name. Let it really be something that you are interested in, that you're willing to invest time, money, energy into. And then the final pitfall is not reflecting on why it mattered. Life only makes sense to us when we look back at it. And so reflection then becomes really important. When you're in the middle of something, you may think that you have an understanding of how you're growing and how it's shaping you and what you're going to use it for in the future. But that changes over time. And so I do think it's important to reflect on why this particular experience mattered to you. And it is going to be important to plan your summer. So again, think about how do you start early? For me personally, I start with students in December prior to the summer on brainstorming ideas. We then create a map. We talk with parents about what are the goals we're setting for the student, as well as the costs associated with it. Importantly, start small. Don't go for grandeur. Always think about if I'm not able to do this one thing that I really want to because of a cost or because I don't have the time to do it, how do you take the idea of the big thing, turn it into something that is more manageable? A good coach is able to help you do that. Document your journey, as I've mentioned before, and reflect regularly. And this is really an important time for you to make an impact, not only in others, but also in yourself. And this is a call to action. Something that I'm going to leave you all with is to really take 20 minutes this week, if it's today, tomorrow, maybe Saturday, and really think about how you are planning your summer. Choose quality over quantity. You've heard the cliche that less is more, and believe me, when students do a few things excellently, it resonates so much more than doing many things average. Talk to a counselor and reach out to Sesameed for advice if you need it. We'd be more than happy to sort of help you through the process and to really think about what it is you'd like to do. And some final thoughts. You don't need a perfect summer. Don't strive for perfection, strive for growth. You need a meaningful one. So really focus on what it is that's going to enable you to, when you share the story, you're going to become animated because you're so excited. For me, one summer that was really sort of memorable was the summer I really took time to cook and to learn how to cook because it was something that I was really interested in, but I didn't ever have the time. And so, what that really meant for me and how I was able to translate that particular summer was to share that I was committed to practice and process through doing the same thing over and over and over again. It was really important for me to just highlight that consistency enabled growth. Be curious, be committed, and most importantly, be yourself. Because no other version of you is going to get into university. Only the authentic self is going to resonate with the humans who are going to be reading those applications when you apply to university at a later stage. So thank you all so much for spending the past 50 minutes with me. If you have any questions, I'd be more than happy to answer them. You can either share it in the chat or you could unmute yourself. I don't know if we're able to do that, Mint, but if you have any questions, please do share them. Thank you again.
So I have one question related to the slides and my own experience. Like when I was teenager, like even this day, we tend to follow what our friends doing. It's more like FOMO, we don't want to miss out. And how do parents as a guidance supporting them to discover who they are without hurting their like natural age, natural behavior?
Mhm. Absolutely. Thank you for that question. And I'm so glad about the way that you framed it. How do we guide them, but also understand that sometimes kids just want to do what their friends are doing? I think that's really important. So one way that I've really thought about it is as a parent is to have consistent conversation with your child, right? By asking them what is exciting to you, having conversations about even something that they're learning academically. It's really going to give them the opportunity to reflect on their experiences, to reflect about what gets them excited, what are they enthusiastic about. And then as a parent, you can say, if you have this interest from my experience, and I think that personalizing it makes it really important and it would resonate deeper with the student is to say, through my experience, I think that if you really love mathematics, maybe consider data science as a summer program on an online course because it's going to show you how mathematics is not just theory, but how it's being applied. And even though your friends are doing engineering summer courses, this is one way to differentiate yourself. And so I think that having those consistent conversations with them and also being supportive, saying, I'm not telling you what to do, but we are having a conversation and having that space to have those conversations. I think that we are seeing more parents doing that sort of work much earlier as well. So students feel more comfortable and confident in who they are. So they tend to not follow as much. And so just giving your child the space to explore who they are, to grow in ways that might, for you, it might be a shock. And you might say, I don't know if this is going to be beneficial, but enabling them to start something. And if it doesn't work out, being there to support them, I think that's really important.
That answers the
Great.
question. Thank you.
Fantastic. Well, thank you all so much. I wish that you have a fantastic summer ahead, and I look forward to seeing you at the next Sesameed webinar in July. Do take care. Thank you again.